It's funny how sometimes a piece of information you share online, maybe something you don't think is that sensitive, can actually be, well, really valuable to the wrong person.
Yeah, it's true.
Or maybe you're just seeing these headlines about data breaches constantly. They almost feel like background noise now. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? Like, how secure are my details,
It's
really?
a constant concern. Absolutely.
So today we're doing a deep dive into one of the latest big ones, the Qantas data breach.
Hmm.
Our mission here is to unpack it all for you. We'll look at what actually happened back on July 1st, 2025, maybe who's behind it, the fallout so far, what Qantas is doing, and really crucially, what you can do.
Right. Practical steps are key.
Exactly. We want you to walk away feeling informed, but also hopefully a bit more empowered to protect yourself.
So let's start at the beginning. These things often kick off with just a small sign, right? On July 1st, Qantas spotted what they called unusual activity.
Unusual activity.
Yeah.
Where?
It was on a platform used by a third-party call center supplier, one based over in Manila. It's often that little anomaly, that first flicker, that signals something bigger is going on.
Okay, so they saw something odd with this supplier system. How quickly did they figure out the scale of this? What are we talking about numbers-wise?
Well, they acted fast,
Yeah.
but once they started digging in, it became clear this was pretty significant. We're looking at data related to approximately 6 million customers held in that system.
6 million. Wow. That's a huge number.
It really is a staggering amount of people affected.
So for those 6 million, what specific data are we talking about? What did the attackers actually get access to?
Okay, so the information accessed included things like names, email addresses, phone numbers, dates of birth, and also frequent flyer numbers.
Right.
But, and this is really important, we need to be clear about what wasn't accessed. It's a key difference compared to some other breaches we've seen.
Okay, that's crucial. So you mentioned what was taken, what was kept safe, what
Yeah.
wasn't compromised here.
Exactly. So according to Qantas, the really sensitive stuff like passwords, credit card details, passport information, and the actual credentials to log into frequent flyer accounts, none of that was compromised.
Right. So no direct financial data or account logins. That's something, I suppose.
It definitely changes the immediate risk profile. Yeah, it provides important context.
But connecting this to how these attacks happen, the early signs are pointing towards a specific group, aren't they?
They are, yes. The early intelligence suggests a group known as Scattered Spider might be involved.
Scattered Spider. It doesn't sound friendly. What's their deal? What are they known for?
They're pretty notorious, actually. They specialize in sophisticated social engineering.
Ah.
And interestingly, they seem to have a particular focus on airlines. Their method is often about manipulating people, not just breaking through firewalls.
So it's less about fancy hacking code and more about tricking someone,
Yeah.
like a digital con artist.
That's a good way to put it. Exactly. The likely method here seems to involve attackers pretending to be staff members.
Okay. And then they trick IT help desks into basically bypassing multi-factor authentication MFA safeguards. It really highlights how the human element is often the weakest link, even with strong tech in place.
Wow, yeah. That's quite sobering. Okay, so they identify this breach. They suspect Scattered Spider.
Hmm.
What did Qantas do immediately? What was their response?
Well, they moved quickly to contain the situation and secure that affected system.
Right.
That immediate action is critical to stop the bleeding, so to speak.
Right.
They also promptly notified the relevant Australian authorities. We're talking the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, the AFP, the Federal Police, and the Office of the Australian Information Commissioner.
Good. Transparency is important there. Did they bring in outside help, too, for the investigation?
Yes, absolutely. They've engaged independent cybersecurity teams and experts. That external perspective is crucial for getting a thorough, unbiased look at exactly what happened and how.
Okay, so that's the technical and procedural side. But what about the fallout? There are always ripples when something like this happens. Oh, definitely. You saw an immediate financial reaction. Qantas shares dipped about 2.4% right after the news broke.
Okay.
But the bigger concern really is for the customers. Even though financial data wasn't taken, the information that was compromised, names, emails, birth dates, phone numbers that can absolutely fuel things like identity theft, targeted phishing attacks, other kinds of fraudulent activity. It's quite insidious.
Right, and this is where I think people sometimes underestimate the risk. They think, oh, they didn't get my credit card, I'm fine. But that's not really the whole story, is it?
Not at all. That's the crucial takeaway here. In today's world, your date of birth, your email, your phone number, these are valuable keys for attackers. They might be just as valuable as your credit card number in some ways,
How so?
because they enable impersonation. Cyber experts warn about this all the time. With just those details, attackers can often convincingly pretend to be you. They can try to take over other accounts, reset passwords, think how often you're asked for your date of birth as a security question, or use email for password recovery.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's the danger zone right there.
Exactly.
So given those risks, what's Qantas actually doing now for its customers, beyond the initial response?
Well, the CEO, Vanessa Hudson, she issued a public apology. That's an important step for accountability.
Mm-hmm.
They've also given assurances they'll support customers and keep them updated. And more practically, they're reaching out directly via email to affected people. And they've set up a dedicated support line. I think the number is 1-800-971-541 for anyone with concerns.
Okay, so direct outreach and a helpline. Is this just a short-term thing, or are they looking longer term as well?
They're framing it as an ongoing effort. They're continuing to work with those government bodies and the cybersecurity experts. The goal isn't just fixing this one incident, but trying to strengthen things to prevent future breaches.
Right. Okay, that covers what Qantas is doing, but let's pivot to our listeners. What should you be doing right now if you think you might be affected, or even just as a precaution? What are the practical steps?
Okay, first things first. Be super cautious about phishing attempts. Attackers are almost certainly going to use this. They might pose as Qantas or banks or other services. If an email, SMS, or call feels even slightly off, just don't engage. Trust your gut.
Good advice. And for frequent flyers specifically, anything extra?
Absolutely. Keep a close eye on your frequent flyer account activity. Look for anything unusual, strange bookings you didn't make, weird point redemptions, any changes to your account details. Any little anomaly should be a red flag.
Makes sense. Check the statements.
Yeah, and also think about other accounts. Check any accounts linked to the same email address or phone number that might have been compromised. See if there's any suspicious activity there too.
Yeah.
We often reuse contact details across many services.
That's a big one. Sounds like a bit of work maybe, but probably worth it.
Oh, definitely. A few minutes checking can save you a massive headache down the line. Think of it like a quick digital checkup.
Okay, good analogy.
Yeah.
And finally, how should people stay informed reliably?
Stick to official channels. Get your updates directly from Qantas Communications if you're a customer, or from reputable, verified news sources. Avoid relying on, random posts on social media for security info.
Great. Sound advice. Now, let's just zoom out for a second. This Qantas breach, it didn't exactly happen in isolation, did it? Particularly in Australia.
No, unfortunately it didn't. It feels like part of a really disturbing pattern we've been seeing. You just have to think back to the major breaches at Optus, Medibank, even some superannuation funds recently.
Yeah, it does seem like a trend.
It suggests this isn't just a one-off company problem, but maybe a wider, more systemic challenge for the country's digital infrastructure.
And because of this pattern, are we hearing calls for things to change?
We are, yeah. Cybersecurity experts are getting louder, really calling for stronger leadership on cybersecurity policy. That means from the government, but also from the private sector itself. The feeling is that we need more robust, proactive measures across the board.
Okay, so a need for a bigger, more coordinated response. Understood. So let's quickly recap our deep dive then. We've talked about the Qantas breach, the specific data involved names, emails, dates of birth, frequent flyer numbers, but crucially, not financial details or passwords.
Right. And we looked at the likely method that social engineering tactic probably used by the scattered spider group, basically tricking help desk staff.
We covered Qantas's swift response containment, notifying authorities, bringing in experts, and their ongoing customer support, like the helpline.
And we highlighted the real risks that remain for you. Even without financial data loss, things like identity theft and phishing are still very possible.
And most importantly, perhaps, we outline what you should do. Be super vigilant about phishing, monitor your frequent flyer and linked accounts closely, and stay informed through official sources.
Yeah, understanding what happened is one thing, but taking those proactive steps for your own digital safety is really paramount.
Absolutely. So maybe we can end on this thought. We've seen this pattern of breaches now in Australia, Optus, Medibank, Qantas, and the methods, like social engineering, are getting more sophisticated. It really makes you wonder, what does this recurring pattern tell us about just how fast cyber threats are evolving? And maybe more fundamentally, what kind of foundational changes do we need, maybe across society as a whole, to truly protect our digital identities going forward?
That's a big question, and definitely something worth thinking about long after this deep dive ends.